Hey everybody, welcome back. It's been a long day, but it's always good to get stopped for the night and get a good place to park. And luckily for me, I can either park at a Walmart store or Walmart DC. So the stress of trying to find a place to park these days is not that bad. But anyways, I'm going to kind of combine this video with the live event. Wednesday, I believe it's the 20th of next week. So today's the 15th, tomorrow's the 16th, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th. Yeah, I'm almost positive it's going to be the 20th. 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So we'll see how that goes. If I even thought about doing Zoom, but it would only go about 40 minutes. So I don't really know how long this live event thing will go on. But either way, we'll give it a shot. And I thought about actually doing the Zoom because I used to have, I would pay so as many people wanted to go on there, and you didn't have a time limit. With the way it's set up now, it's 40 minutes, and I think it's up to 50 people. The last time we did it, it didn't go out well. I think one person got on, and by the time they figured out what was going on, they got kicked out of it or something. I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened. But... and I know some people don't like to be on camera and that kind of stuff too. So either way, doesn't matter. If we decide later on to do the Zoom thing again, it'd be great to... because what I'm kind of afraid of is the comment thing's going to go so fast because I've been reading people's reviews. My phone thing broke. I was reading people's reviews, and they said the comments go pretty fast, so you got to kind of keep an eye and watch as they go. I'm going to keep messing with that thing, and I'll lose track. But anyways, so if for some reason your comment gets passed up, just put it on there again. I know it might be a pain. That's why I kind of like the Zoom thing, because it'll be, you could see each other and talk and whatever. But anyways, so all right, here's where I'm going with this. I'm going to kind of switch gears back a little bit because Heather asked me to go a little bit more into my childhood and parents and things like that. So I know in the Hell video I touched on it a little bit. I kind of go through it pretty quick. But so let me just go back. We lived in Copley, Ohio, and that was the first basically demonic house that I was in. My father, he was there for a while. And again, I don't know if I was in like kindergarten or first grade when he finally left. But the last thing I remember was, and I don't even know how or why I even heard of it, but I remember he worked nights, so he would sleep most of the day. And at that point, I had this blanket that my grandmother made, all of us, my three sisters and myself. It basically had our birth date on it, our name on it, and she made like a little quilt for us. Well, I would wrap that around me and tie it, and that became my like Batman cape. I remember running in there, like sneaking in there and jumping on the bed and asking him, who's going to play cards with me? Who's going to play with me? And, I don't really recall really what he said, to be honest. But I know shortly after that, I heard him come in. It was a weekend, and I heard him come in, and my mom and him was fighting, and he had her in the living room, was choking her, and she turned different colors and stuff. And I remember my oldest sister telling me to go back to bed. It's going to be okay. And the last thing I remember is Daddy's going to kill Mommy. And I remember the cops coming and my grandfather coming over, and that was pretty much the last I seen my dad until he come by a couple times, and when we were still in Copley, and he just stopped coming. And later on, I mean, I'll touch a little bit on that, but a little later on, he told me it's because my grandfather didn't like each other, and my grandfather pretty much took everything out on me because he didn't like my dad. Because I guess one night when they were drinking, when my grandfather used to still drink at the time, I guess they got into a fight. My dad beat him up pretty bad, which doesn't surprise me because my dad served in Vietnam. He was a Golden Gloves boxer. It's kind of why I started getting into boxing, because I wanted to have something in common, thinking that my dad would want something to do with me. Now, later on, my dad met another person, and he ended up marrying, and she had previous kids from a previous marriage, 2 daughters and a son. And as I got older, talking with the son and seeing how my dad interacted with him, it was almost like I didn't exist, but he did. And, my dad was like super nice to him. And, he was talking about how, he called him dad too. And he says, well, dad taught me how to throw footballs and all that. And granted, I was probably like 14 at that time. And I'll go back a little bit over. I just kind of want to give you a feel on this. I was about 14, and, I didn't understand, why did you raise this kid but not me? Why'd you not come and see me? I remember when we moved from Copley, we went to Brimfield, where today there's a Walmart there. And next to where the Walmart was, there's a line of stores that goes up. It's Kohl's, and they got a Dollar Tree and all this stuff, and a couple, restaurants and, stuff. But those used to be barns in there. And then there was a hill. And now there's apartments and stuff all the way in the back. But across the street, there's a Myers, and there's a Menards, and Aldi's, and a gas station and stuff. But that used to be a golf course. And when we lived there, I used to run across the street, and any golf balls that came out from underneath of the fence, I was allowed to go and collect them. The guy, when he first came and yelled at me, he was yelling for me. I thought I was in trouble, so naturally I would just run it back across the street. But he ended up giving me a golf club and stuff, and I used to just go back in the fields and just whack the stupid balls. But in Copley, we grew up, you don't know you're poor. We struggled, I guess, because, there was times that, food was kind of hard. It's like, you don't have things like other people have. As I was little, I mean, it was weird because, when we went to bed at night, we had our doors open, our windows open. We had screens in the window, and that was pretty much our AC. That was our fans. We didn't have fans. We didn't have central air and stuff back then. I know I had a real bad speech problem. It was hard. I mean, it would take me a long time to get sentences out, pronouncing words. I still have problems pronouncing a lot of words. And, I try to avoid a lot of words even still today. Sometimes when I'm in a group and I'm talking and people start cutting in, my brain from what my speech therapist used to tell me, she's like, your brain is processing it faster than what you can speak it. And if somebody would interrupt me, it would take me a while to get back out. Even still today, if it happens, I'll automatically go right back. It just like it kicks back in. And I mean, it would take a while to get a few words out. And it was, kids made fun of you. And, my grandfather, he would embarrass me all the time. It was just, I believe even then, it was started my hatred towards people. And even then, that house, I was able to see demons. I was able to see the demonic forces. When my sisters and them would come up into their room and sit by the closet up there, I would see the demon come out of the room, and he would transform into this red-headed, curly-headed man, and he would go up the stairs. And I would hear him yelling for my mom. Now, I don't know if my mom really believed us or not, but, you would hear doors slam, but she did say that when my dad was still there and my oldest sister was little, they always thought she was running down the hallway going towards the bathroom. So my dad put newspaper down and put flour down, and there was one little baby footprint all the way at the end of the hallway, right by the bathroom door. Now, the only way my sister could have did that if she ran up her and stepped and then smoothed off the flour, but my mom said it was not even touched. You could tell if somebody would have wiped it or something. I mean, or she would have had to dump more flour down there. But we're talking a little girl here. I mean, who would have thought of that at a young age? I don't think too many young kids would, let alone know where the flour was and to go in there and do all that. But it didn't surprise me, because the place was some kind of demonic force all over that place. But my mom, after that, started dating different guys, and let's just face it, some guys are after adult relationship in the bedroom type stuff. Don't give a crap about kids. One guy she dated had kids, and it was like, I don't even know how to put it, but it was like the guy was just evil. I mean, in the hell video, he was the one that I touched on that just literally took a belt off and he would spank me for just random stupid stuff. But that particular night, it was because I left the front door cracked a little bit, because I snuck back in the house because it was snowing out, and I loved going outside and playing, and I had a really big imagination. I mean, but the weird thing about it is, and if I had him with me, I'd show you, but he is on some of the videos, Georgie, but the Georgie I have today is not the same one as I had when I was little. I'll get to that. But so Georgie and I would kind of just go on adventures. See, what people see Georgie as a stuffed animal, to me he was real, and he still is. I would see him as a chimpanzee, and we would go on these adventures. And Darlene tells me all the time that I should do kids books and things in there, but I don't know. I thought, I was like, even maybe thought about doing kids stories and stuff and bring God into it, because Georgie likes to play Noah with the animals up in heaven. But but that particular night, he took me into the bedroom and made me strip down like take my shirt off, my pants off, my socks off. I even had my underwear on for a while. Then he made me take them off, and he just literally beat me with that belt. And I knew something was wrong because it hurt beyond normal. And I started like feeling these welts on me where he was smacking me with the belt. And I remember he walked out of my bedroom, walked through the dining room, and I heard the bath water running. And he put hot scalding water. It was so hot. I don't know if it was just ridiculous hot because he didn't put cold in there, or if it was the fact that I was welded up and bleeding, and he shoved me down into that tub. And I wouldn't go in the tub. And he finally just grabbed me like this and just pushed me down and told me to get in the water, and he was like holding me under there. And for a split moment, I don't know, but I felt like something was happening to me. It's like even then I could see like a figure around him, but I couldn't tell what it was. It's weird because there in Copley, I fell out of a car, out of my mom's car. I must have been playing with the doorknob or, the handle or whatever, and I fell out. But as I fell out and hit the ground, I remember looking up, and I remember hearing my sister that was a year and a half older than me yell, "Nell fell out of the car." And I remember seeing the brake lights, but I watched this guy come at an angle like this and ran downwards, and I watched his feet hit the ground, and he swooped up, like picked me up. The crazy thing is, there was a lady that come over first, and she seen him. There was a nurse that stopped, and she ran over and she said, "I'm a nurse, don't touch him. Let him lay there. How did he get over here? You should have never touched him." And she goes, "I didn't touch him. There was a man that brought him over here." She said, "I just ran and grabbed my coat to wrap around him." And I remember seeing the guy, surely, I remember seeing him run at an angle out of like coming from the sky, running down and picked me up and brought me out of it. It was so close, because I remember when I sat up and I looked back and I seen this bumper coming right at me. That guy would have ran me over. He said by the time he seen something, but he couldn't make it out. It was a guy. He just seen something, and he seen my body moving. And that's when he slammed on his brakes. So, when you're in a realm like that, I think that's between that incident and being stuck back under that water. I think that's what reopened whatever was in my sight that made me be able to see what I was able to see. And I remember one night, the same guy came in there and just started, because he was mad. I don't even know what he was mad about, but I mean, it's like, it didn't seem like anything was right. I mean, you couldn't play with toys, you couldn't do certain things. I mean, this guy would just haul off. Like, if nobody, he would sit in the one chair, like when you walked into the living room, and if nobody was in there, that guy would just smack me, like right in the back of the head, or he'd smack me in the ear. And when I was growing up, I had tubes, and when they pulled the one out, the doctor did something, and it was hard for me to hear. Like, I literally had to look at, I would stare at people's faces all the time, and people just thought I was always making good eye contact. No, I was actually reading lips, because if they were here on this side of me, I couldn't really hear them. When Darlene and I first got together, in the dating process of it, I would always switch her, put her on this side of me, because I couldn't hear what she was saying. And I know I'm kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but I'm going to go back. But I was actually at church down in Florida, and I felt this crackling thing, and I seen this lion coming out of the top of the church, coming down, and I seen Jesus coming through it, and I could hear. It's like instantly I was healed. But so you know, kids make fun of you. You know, I don't think that's ever really changed. I think these days it might be a little less than was, but now you got the bullying and all that. But I think bullying's always been around. I think it's just increased so much now than what it ever was. But so even from a young kid, I had a big wheel and a wagon, and I would hook this rope around it and wrap it around my seat, and they had a brake lever on the side where like a little blue toolbox on the back, and I had this strap thing that I found, and I'd put it around Georgia. It was like a seatbelt thing, and I'd put it around him, and he'd sat up on the back, and I would pedal and pull the wagon on trash days, and I'd go around and I would find stuff like radios, toys, broken toys. It didn't matter. I didn't care what it was. I would pick it up and I'd bring it home, but I would have to hide it from my grandfather because my grandfather would throw stuff away. So I would hide stuff. We had an apple orchard right behind us, and there was like some trees would kind of hollowed out, and I would hide stuff up inside there so nobody would find it. So I made stuff. I'd get like cardboard boxes and stuff, and I'd take knobs off of radios and stuff, and I'd put it in there, and I'd draw stuff, and I would move knobs, and I made spaceships out of them, and I would go on adventures, and I'd take Georgie with me. You know, I didn't know the idea of poor. I didn't know it. I know I would hear people talk that we were poor, but I didn't know what it meant. You know, I had no clue. I just know that I was fine with what I had. Even when I was being punished, I would always get sent to my room, but I was not punished from like I had to sit on a bed or something. I just went in the room and I'd shut the door and I'd play. I'd go on my adventures. I just remember one night, he come in there and literally just started beating the living tar out of me again. I don't even know what I did. I mean, I kept asking him, and he just told me to stop back talking him, and he would just he'd like hold my face down on the bed and just like smash my face into the bed, and just kept hitting me, and that was the first time that I met Lucifer. And he come walking out of the closet, and people, when I tell you, you know, just in the way that I seen him, he was a handsome man. You know, very well spoken, very soft, very, very calm, and very convincing. You know, I remember the words to a T. You know, he says, you know, they don't love you, I love you. Look what they're doing to you. This God is allowing them to punish you, but I can stop it. You know, and it's just over the years I'd listen to him and listen to him and listen to him, and then the one that I call the shadow and the whisperer. I always knew when the shadow was with me, because my shadows would move as I was walking. I could watch them move ahead of me, or I'd be like in the house and I would see it coming, because it always like sat in the corner. And most of the time, this particular demon does. It just sits in the corner and it watches you. It studies you. That's how it knows what to use later on in life to bring you into that demonic realm. Then you got the whisperer that just talks to you while you're sleeping and just feeds you full of crazy thoughts. You know, I know hell is hard for a lot of people, and a lot of people don't want to hear about hell and the Illuminati and, all the stuff that is coming. 2024, people, it's, and that's why I started these videos, to lead into what the Lord has been giving me for 2024. And I know it's hard, but, hell is as real as this earth. So to sit there and go, and the crazy thing about it is, I tell people all the time, is like, I know people don't want to hear about it, but how do you defeat it? How do you do spiritual warfare on something you don't know how to do? See, that's what the devil counts on. The devil wants you not to be comfortable with it. Because he knows once you know exactly what you're dealing with, spiritual warfare is easier to do if you know what you're dealing with. So, there you go. But either way, I sometimes I get a lot of backlash on the hell parts. I was just reading an email from a guy. I don't know who this guy is. I never even heard from him before, but maybe back in the earlier videos, I don't know. He said he's commented on a couple videos, but I never reply. So he's pretty much just calling me out and all this stuff. And I said, man, if it's the earlier videos, I've been trying to go back on there. And I apologize. I was like, I'm one person, and I'm sorry you don't like the videos, but I'm not forcing you to watch them. I mean, turn them off. But it was the fact that, he's like, I'm tired of listening to your hell stuff. I don't believe it. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to tell you, just like I tell everybody else, you don't have to believe it to go there. You'll believe it when you're there. But once you're in there, it's too late. And that's all I'm going to say about it. And the amazing part about it is, my oldest sister, there was an angel came to her and told her my birth date, when I was going to be born. I was going to be a boy. So she told my mom, and I think my mom told me later on that she actually wrote it down, what Chris told them. And but the weird thing is, my oldest sister remembers it. I think my second to oldest sister, she talks about the redheaded guy, but she don't really talk about anything else. So whether or not it bothers her that much that she doesn't want to be seen with it, or I don't know. I really don't know how to take it sometimes with her. But so basically, there was a girl. There was a rocking chair. If you would go to the front entrance of the house, there was concrete steps, and on the side of that was a window. Well, there was a chair in there, and somebody put cinder blocks up to block this off. So there was really no way to ever get to that little rocking chair looking thing. But if you look through the window, you can see it moving. And I know sometimes my sister Robin, the one that overdosed, she would throw my stuff down the stairs and laugh at me and tell me to go get it, knowingly I was terrified to go down that basement because of that girl. I would lay in bed at nighttime and hear her call me to come play with her, and she'd get mad if I wouldn't come. I was terrified of that. I had a bunch of stuffed animals, and the only one I would leave on the bed was Georgie. The rest of them, they stayed against the wall. And under my bed, I would line up my army men around there. And I got Han Solo and Chewbacca and some Star Wars figures for Christmas one year. So I would put Han Solo with his gun and Chewbacca under there. And my grandma gave me this little statue. It was probably about this big. I called him the Glow Man because he'd glow in the dark. I found out later on it was Jesus. I don't know where she ever got it at, but I would put him under there and I would kind of like tuck behind it. Weird thing is, I wasn't afraid to go under the bed at night, but during the day I would run and jump into my bed because I would see stuff under my bed. Nighttime, I never seen it. They would always be in that closet or in the corner where my dresser was. I had a window. My bed came this way. The door was here. So picture my bed, a door here, and next to the bed here was a window, and then a dresser at the foot of my bed, and then another window and the closet door, and then a wall that came back over to where the door was. There's the little wall there and a wall that came this way. Then the closet would have been back here. Now, granted, they'd come out of that closet and come straight up, right out the door. But which is not surprising, people. Demonic things love dark places. They love under beds, closets, attics, basements. It's just what they do. And, I mean, I'd literally have my bed shake. I'd have my covers ripped off off the bed. I was drug out of bed numerous times in that house. I got drug one night into the closet, and the door was locked. And but it didn't have a lock on it unless you had a key, one of the skeleton keys. And I remember one night looking through the keyhole, and I seen my sister Robin just sit with this sinister laugh, just laughing. And I said, "Robin, just open the door and let me out." And she goes, "No, no." She kept telling me no. And I was crying. I was so scared, like when she used to throw my stuff down there. So I was wondering, because there is a demon that can change appearances. Like one time, I'll just tell you this real quick too. We lived in another house, and Darlene seen a cat. Well, she didn't like cats, and this cat started her. She was on the phone with her son, and so then she seen our dog Mocha, which was her dog, but became my dog because I loved that dog. I'd lay on the floor with that dog, and I'd spin the dog around and lay on her belly, and she'd just look at me and lick me. The only dog I ever let eat ice cream off of my ice cream cone was that dog. And I'd crack the peanuts, and the peanuts that come in the shells. I'd crack it. We would eat peanuts, but she was my baby. She would lay in the front window because it was kind of like a window that came out like this. It would come out and then like this, and it had a ledge. She'd lay there, and as soon as I pulled in, as soon as I opened the door, she would do this like on her feet, like kind of like a happy dance type thing. And it was sad, when we finally had to put her down. But so I always grew up not feeling accepted, no matter who my mom was dating. It was like the last guy that my mom dated that she ended up getting married. That's the one I was telling you about. We moved into Brimfield, where the Walmart and stuff is today on County Road 18. We ended up moving in there. It was an old farmhouse. Like I said, it had the barns and stuff like that. And that guy was mean. I mean, he was just, he had two sons and a daughter, and whatever his son wanted, the youngest son, I would have, if I had two or something of it, I had to give it to him. Well, I had a bunch of baseball cards. I had Star Wars because I was big on Star Wars, and still am today. I mean, honestly, I just love them. I mean, it's I can look at movies and pull movies out of it, pull stuff out of it, and bring the Bible into it. Exactly what's going on there. Like I used to do these teachings, and I'd use the Wizard of Oz. She had the ruby slippers. She had the power and authority all the time that she could go home. All she had to do was click her heels. Well, we have the power and authority to do the same thing as the ruby slippers. It's called the Holy Bible. And it's like you go through movies, and I look at the good and the evil fighting each other. So one day his son wanted some of my cards. And I kept telling my mom, I said, Mom, I don't have any doubles of this stuff. I mean, this is my Star Wars cards. And I had some of the Kiss cards and stuff like that. Baseball, football cards. I don't think I had like hockey or anything like that. But I had some motorcycle cards. Back in the day when Cracker Jack used to give you cool stuff in the boxes, like little cool toys and tattoos, and they had little baseball cards, which today are worth a lot of money. I mean, it's crazy how people collect stuff. But so he started a fire in this 55-gallon burn barrel, we used to call it, and he made me go up there because I refused to give his son any of them. It made me throw all my cards in there one by one. And I just remember crying and looking at my mom and asking her, why are you letting him do this to me? And, my mom was one of them people that whoever she dated, she liked everything they liked and hated everything they hated. I mean, it was the craziest thing ever. But, I didn't really get along with males too well because it was always something to do with them. It's like I never felt love. I always felt hate and, abuse and everything that came with it. But the demonic really never, ever left. It kind of like follows you around and follows you where you're at. Like I said, it's your shadow basically. And there was times I'd be walking, like I said, shadow would move. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter what they took from me because I always had my imagination. And I literally could escape people. I mean, it was the craziest thing ever is I could escape and literally see my body when I was being beat on like that, and I was out of my body, and I wouldn't feel it until I came back. And that was the cool thing about it. You think even as a young boy riding around with a big wheel, I mean, I was small. I mean, obviously, I shouldn't have been running around the streets, but it even got to a point where people would bring stuff to the house and drop it off at the end of the driveway, and I'd run down and get it and take it up there and hide it. And I would use it. I'd use stuff, whatever they brought. I didn't care what it was. And I'd find broken stuff, and even still, we ended up moving down the road, and a lot of kids made fun of these people because they didn't have running water, because they lived in a trailer and the pipes broke. So we ended up moving in there, and like nobody made fun of us. Because these kids didn't smell good. I mean, because they didn't have water. I mean, so naturally they're dirty. And we had like buckets that we would kind of stand in and wash in the buckets, and that's how we took baths. I don't know how they ever washed clothes, but they got washed. I don't know if they went to a laundromat or how they did it, but it was like a junkyard there, and there was a bunch of old cars and buses, and there was these little buildings, and there was all kinds of stuff in there. I'd go in there. I mean, there were spiders, and I didn't care. I would like take this. I found this bottle, and I'd fill it up with water, and I'd squirt at the spiders, so I wouldn't get bit. And I'd go through there. There'd be like couches and stuff in there with stuff piled all over boxes and stuff. And I would just spend hours in that dang on them nasty buildings and just find stuff. Anything that I could find that I was able to. One of the buses, I made a bunch, like, put stuff in there and made, like, toys and stuff out of them. I found little trucks and stuff in there with no wheels. And going around trash day on trash days, people would throw stuff out. I would grab the tires and stuff off of that and make a car out of it. So Georgie, I remember my mom, the guy that I was telling you about that made me burn all my baseball cards and all my cards and stuff, and made him give some of my Star Wars people to his son, and it was just horrible. I mean, it was like anything this kid wanted, he got it. If not, then I had to get rid of it. And he wanted Georgie. And I told my mom, I said, Mom, and the weird thing is, when we lived in Copley, I came home from school one day and he was on the bed. And I asked my mom where he came from, and she had no idea. And when I went and get in there and got him, I instantly called him Georgie. And my mom said, Who's Georgie? And I went and got him. She goes, I don't know where. She thought I got him from school. Somebody gave him to me. I said, no, he was on my bed. So she called. My grandma was there that day. So she called my grandmother. My grandmother didn't put him there. And my mom didn't put him there. He was there when I came home. But I don't really like talking about this part of it because it brings back a lot of pain, actually. But it was trash day, so I had to walk Georgie down. And when the trash man was coming, I had to put him in the trash can. And I remember the guy picking it up and dumping him. And I just kept screaming, I'm sorry, Georgie, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I was crying, and I was going up there, and I heard the machine kick on. And the only thing I seen last was his hand sticking out. It was almost like I felt like he was reaching out for me, and I was trying to, like, I just wanted to grab him, but it was too late. And I remember looking at my mom and just crying, and I just thought in my head, because I was a little bit older then, not much. I mean, I think I was in like second or third grade, and I just remember thinking, I hated her. It was, I just couldn't believe that was the only thing I really had that kept me in a place that nobody could touch me. I guess the better word. But and I remember going into schools and kids putting all their stuff away, and I remember a teacher asking me once, how come I didn't put my stuff in the desk? And I said, doesn't matter, we won't be here long. And we just moved around so much in different schools. I stopped counting in grade school from kindergarten to sixth grade. So kindergarten to fifth grade, I stopped counting at 12 different places, jumping around. First grade, I went first grade twice. but we were at the same school at that time. We were still at the Copley School. So, 6th grade, I went to stay with my dad. You know, there was times that my mom said he was coming to pick me up, that I had to be at the end of the driveway, and I'd pack my stuff and I'd go there and sit. And it was Saturday morning, and I got out there. I mean, it was still dark, and I would sit there and just wait and wait and wait and just cry because I knew he wasn't coming. I just knew it, and I just felt, ashamed, like I did something wrong. And then, like I said, eventually finding out that he raised other kids, I didn't have any of that. I remember the neighbor of my friend down the road, his dad would throw footballs, and I could never catch it. And he tried to teach me how to catch it, but I wasn't so good. But so the guy that made me get rid of everything, he ended up taking advantage of my oldest sister, and my mom took me down the road. There was a guy that had these rabbits, and we ended up staying there. I don't even know how in the heck she met this guy, but make a long story short, even on that, my mom ended up leaving me there, and left the girls up the road. And I forgot to clean the rabbit cages one day because I came home from school, and my thing was to stay there. For me staying there, I'd have to clean the rabbit cages. Well, these things were heavy. I mean, they were big metal trays. These rabbit cages were hung by these wire things in this barn, and I'd have to slide these trays out and dump all the waste from the rabbits in these buckets, and then carry the 5-gallon buckets all the way out to the end of his property and dump it into this, like, I don't know what it was, but, and, so I forgot. I came home, and I turned on cartoons, and I was eating dinner, and, he came home, and I was just getting into bed, and he walked out there, and I knew I forgot at that point. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna get in trouble. And he comes in here and grabs me by the back of my neck and pulls me out of the bed and drags me out there. Literally was dragging me out to the barn thing out there, and pulled a couple of the trays and pushed my face down in it. And he told me the next time if I forget to clean these cages, he was going to make me lick the trays. And I had to clean those trays all night long. And, it's things like that. You just, I don't know, you just grow used to and accustomed to being treated like that. And, your self-esteem, you just kind of lose everything. You just kind of lose who you are as a person. And it didn't help that I couldn't really, speak very well either. And it was funny because my one teacher, very nice lady, she would always take time to just, during the recess and stuff, she would always just take time and ask me about my drawing, because I used to draw stuff all the time, and she asked me how come I don't take them home, and I said because I'll have to get rid of them. So I hid them at school in my book bags and stuff, or if I took them home, I would, no matter where we lived, I always found a place to hide stuff, so nobody would find it. So, and again, this guy, he had kids. Like I said, he had 2 sons and he had a daughter. And they'd come over on the weekends. When they came over, I mean, The fact that I liked that we actually got food, because when they weren't there, I mean, there was four of us, so we would have to cut a pork chop. The ones with the bones in it. We would have to cut the pork chop in half, the meat part, and we had to share it. So, two pork chops fed four of us. And this guy liked rice, and still today, white rice. I'll eat the Spanish rice or the chicken fried rice and stuff like that. It took me a long time to be able to do it, but I didn't eat it one day, and I got punished. So again, when my mom wasn't around or anybody wasn't there, because I'd still be sitting at the table, being forced to eat this white rice, and he would hit me. He would smack me with stuff. He took a wooden spoon and smacked me in the side of the face with it. And then he opened my mouth. He put this, I don't know, it kind of looked like a fork, but it was like a, I don't know, maybe like a spatula, but it was real thin and it had a wooden handle. Almost like what a doctor would check your tonsils or whatever the heck they would do, and they would hold your tongue down. He shoved that thing in my mouth, pinched my nose, and was just shoving that rice with big spoons down inside my mouth, and I would get almost to the point of throwing up. So when he wasn't looking, I rolled up my pant legs and I shoved it, filled around my pant leg, and I kept rolling my pant leg and shoving this rice in there on my pants, and then I'd dump it in my pockets. Then I'd go out and play, and I'd take it, and we had a cornfield behind us, and I'd run through this cornfield and just dump all that rice out there in the cornfield. But I went way out in the cornfield because I didn't ever want him to see it, because I knew I'd be in more trouble. So, and it never really stopped. My mom just kept meeting people, and she would date people, and it just continued on. I mean, the beatings and the craziness that went with it. She would give food stamps, and we would eat really good like the first week and a half of the second week. And my mom always bought like 3 bags of 50-pound potatoes, and we had Crisco and stuff back then, so we would, I would just make French fries. Then I got tired of making French fries, so I would cut them in cubes and pretend like it was something else. I literally could convince myself that I was eating something else. And I liked the holidays because the teachers I had, I don't know, but they were really super friendly. And I remember this one teacher, she made a bunch of homemade candy, and I asked her if I could leave it in my desk because I was afraid to take it home, because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to keep it. And a lot of times my oldest sister, my sister that was a year and a half older than me, she would find my stuff and eat it. We'd go trick-or-treat and stuff, and she would just sneak down and get into my bag and stuff and eat my candy. But it's weird thing is we would fight a lot, but I would. It was almost like I become a dad figure to her, and I always felt like that anyways. I always kind of felt more like a dad figure, even to my mom. And, I was never really a brother. I was a fix-it person. And it just, but she would listen to me until, she got hooked into a lot of drugs and stuff, and I just couldn't get her out of it. And the last time I talked to her, I just pretty much told her, because she described She said, Jesus is coming for me. He said he was coming back. And she described the person. I said, Robin, that's not Jesus. I said, that's Lucifer. I mean, to a T, she described him. And she said he would sit on her chest and it was hard for her to breathe. And she'd ask him if he could get off of her so she could breathe, and he would laugh at her. And I said, well, first of all, Jesus would never do something like that. So there's another reason why you know it's not Jesus. And, you know, it was crazy. You know, my mom ended up leaving. I was 14. Robin was pregnant with Ashley, and I didn't know nothing about rent. I didn't know nothing about paying bills. The guy she got pregnant by, he was doing landscaping, and he got me a job. He said, just tell him you're 16. Well, they never asked me. I always look older than what I was. So I went to work. We ended up moving from one place because we didn't pay the rent. And we moved up the road, and that place caught on fire. So we ended up going to another place. And again, no rent. You know, my mom wasn't there. She was taking the money and just leaving us. So that guy finally evicted us. And Robin just gave birth. And the girl that she knew, her mom said she could take one of us. She couldn't take both of us. So I told my sister, I said, look, you got a baby. Just go. And she said, no, where are you going to go? What are you going to do? I said, I don't know. I said, I'll be all right. Don't worry about me. And I went and lived under a bridge. I learned how to eat out of trash cans. I learned how to wash clothes in water. And, you know, some old guy taught me how to make fires in these burn barrels and stuff. And still today, I think that old guy, I literally think it was Jesus. I really do. You know, because he would tell me stuff about the Father and stuff like that. And I didn't want to hear it. You know, I didn't. When my grandmother passed away, you know, everything changed. And I was mad at God. You know, I hated God. I didn't want to hear about God. I didn't want to hear about Jesus. First of all, I didn't even know who Jesus was. But my grandmother was the only love that I really felt, you know, and she was a wonderful woman. I can, you know, your life changes sometimes when you would imagine, you know, but I guess the hurt makes you stronger and it makes you who you are. And so, you know, weird things is, you know, some things that you kind of haunt you a little bit, you know, because I remember the first time walking, I was just so hungry. And there was a little diner called the Kenmore Coffee Shop. It was on Kenmore Boulevard. And I remember walking up, and there was an alleyway right behind it. And this guy and this woman come out, and the woman just kind of looked at me. And she goes, well, I don't think I'm going to take this. And she just kind of didn't throw it in the trash can. She kind of dropped it next to it. And she just looked at me, and then I waited till they got in their car, and I grabbed it, and I ran behind the alley, and I opened it up, and there was a bite mark in it, where somebody took a bite of the hamburger, and I just remember eating and crying, and then I thought I was a thief. You know, I literally thought, oh my gosh, I just stole these people's food, and now I'm a thief. And you know, the education that I had wasn't much. And so I stayed there for a while under the bridge, and I was working at another landscaping company at that time, and I met some guys, and they said, and finally the one guy asked me, he goes, man, why do you get dropped off at this bridge? Why do you want me to drop you off there? Where do you live? And I said, under the bridge. And he goes, oh. He goes, well, the next day he picked me up, and he says, you can come to the house. But he called him master. I called him sir. Other people called him pops, and some people called him dad and stuff like that. But I didn't think nothing about the house, It's but it was a demonic. I mean, I learned the ways of witchcraft, and I learned, the triangle, how to make the triangle work, and the colors of lighting things and doing stuff and seances and conjuring up evil spirits and getting strength. And I started fighting. I was being trained in you're talking, I was just angered and mad at the world, and that's what the devil likes. And you don't exist anymore. You just lose who you are as a person. Not that I ever knew who I was. And I talk about that house a lot, but I'm not going to go into a lot of details with it. I don't know if you haven't seen the Hell video. I go into a lot of it there, but I basically became just plain evil, and there was no stopping it. And when I say I was a monster, I mean I truly mean I was a walking disaster. The strength, the knowledge of what I was capable of doing, that's why I feel the way I feel when I talk about watching what your kid's doing. Tarot cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Pokemon, Harry Potter stuff, Dungeons and Dragons. I can go down the list of it. I mean, Ouija boards, lighting candles, seances, building altars to Satan. People don't even know what they're doing. Writing 666 on themselves or on their books, and listening to the devil's playing music. It's still weird because still today I can hear rock and roll music, and what people hear is the lyrics. I don't hear the lyrics. I hear. Hold on a second. It's getting cold in here. I hear different words. I mean, I hear demons talking on these things. So it's like sometimes people say, "What was the lyrics to that?" You don't want to know. But I remember times when my mom, I was walking because like I said, I'd have to pass through town and pass through where she was living, and I never really knew where she lived. I just would see her pass me up. And one time it was raining, and I know she seen me because she looked right at me, and she splashed water like all over me, and I was just like crying because I couldn't believe that my mother would do that. But over the years, when my mom needed a place to stay, I would always take my mom in. And so I went and lived with my dad for a while. It was like a year. And I ended up buying the trailer he lived in. He moved it down into Canal Fulton. And I helped him move. And my stepmom would call me all the time, like I knew I'd get off work. It would be about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I knew I had to do stuff with the kids' lunches and stuff like that. But I knew I had to go to sleep because I knew if she called, it was going to be between that 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, or 2 o'clock, and I'd be down there the rest of the day, the rest of the night, and with no sleep. And I'd have to leave in the morning to make sure the kids were up and stuff. And it was horrible. My dad, between demons, talking to demons, Vietnam, and just the whole mess of it. My dad was strong. I mean, very strong man, very, very big man. And I would honestly say, I first learned how to fight, it was by him. And I remember coming home one day from school and bloody nose, my eye was swelled up, and he said, "Did you fight back?" And I said, "Dad, I don't know how to fight." He says, "You either start fighting back, or the next time I hear that you didn't, you're going out back and you're fighting me." Well, I just thought he was joking. No, he wasn't joking. I can honestly say the first time I've ever been knocked out was by my dad. My dad hit me so hard it just knocked me out. Just flat out, laid me out, and that was it. And I started fighting. Anybody picked on me, pushed me or whatever, I started fighting, then I started getting in trouble. And then I'd get in trouble by my dad. And I said, "Well, Dad, you told me." He says, "Yeah, but you're starting trouble." I said, "No, I'm not starting trouble." I said, "They're starting it with me." It didn't really matter. So I ended up leaving my dad's, and I went back to my mom's. And I never felt loved. I mean, my sisters used to claim I was a favorite, but they have no idea. They had no idea what my mom did to me. I mean, I'm a young boy, and I'm drinking beer, smoking dope, and drugs after drugs after drugs, and just driving cars with no driver's license, and living in a satanic house that these people were doing potions and were doing all this stuff. I'm learning stuff from warlocks and witches, and I mean, it was intense. I mean, it was just, I didn't even have thoughts anymore. It's like you could walk in that house and somebody would talk to you and you would just know what they're thinking. And we used to do it all the time so nobody would hear, because even though we would do this, nobody could hear exactly what we were saying because they couldn't get into your brain. But them witches could. The witches could hear what we were talking about. And she'd tell us to stop it all the time. She goes, "Stop it, or they're going to find out." Well, I didn't want that, because we sacrifice animals. It was rough. I can honestly say, I did suicide four different times. That's how I ended up going into hell. That's how I ended up seeing heaven. Today, I could just go into prayer, and I go into that deep prayer and meditation, and I go to heaven. And it's amazing. It's also hard, people. I know a lot of people say they want to see heaven. They want to see the spiritual parts of things. No, you don't. I don't want to come back. And every time I got to come back here, last time, a couple times back, I grabbed a hold of Jesus and begged him not to send me back. But he just kept telling me, I still have more for you to do. And I don't know. It's like a lot of times I just don't feel like I fit in nowhere. I've taken a lot of stuff from work, jobs and stuff, and I always felt like I always had to prove myself to keep my job. And the Lord would tell me He was going to move my job to something else. I'd have people tell me I had too many jobs, bounce from job to job, and I was like, no, I've had jobs long. I mean, when my second landscaping job where I met them boys, I was there for almost 12 years. I started off making a couple dollars an hour, for crying out loud. And to me, that was like $1 million. I'd get a paycheck with $120, and I thought that was the biggest thing ever. But I could live a long time on $120. And then I ended up meeting a woman that had 2 kids. The one kid was just turning 1 year old, and I ended up raising them. And I thought of them as my own. I always said that it's weird how you could think about kids, and I always knew that I would marry somebody that had kids. It was weird, but I mean, I could touch people's hands, and I could tell you, and I could tell people things that's happening in their household or what their spouse was doing to them, and but that woman. Excuse me. I got up at 2:30 this morning so I can make it to work. I got a 2-hour drive, so and then I got to drive all day. So sometimes you fight. The first day back's always the hardest. But then, this lady was pure evil. Still is. When I did that video about four videos back, talking about my ex-wife and all that kind of stuff and all the hatred. People, I've been accused of so much stuff. I mean, it's not even funny. I mean, I've been accused of being gay. I've been accused of raping people, and a little girl at that. I mean, I don't know. Well, she's not little. I mean, she was, she had a daughter of her own and stuff, but. I put up with a lot of crap from that girl, and I put up probably more from her than I did with my own children, all because of, again, the devil uses something, love, always love. He always uses love for his gain because he knows he can control people with love. And Chloe, I always told her. She came up to me one day. She goes, you can get close with Chloe. I would never keep her from you, no matter what happens. I said, yes, you will. There will come a time when you will. And sure enough, it's sad because it's hard not being able to see her, but I know it's even harder on Darlene because Darlene always had her. She was, that was her. She called Darlene Gaga, and I know it bothers Darlene, and I feel horrible because I'm to blame for it. Why she's not allowed to come over. So it's like a burden. It's like a heavy burden that I carry, that every time I hear her talk about Chloe, I just feel like, this is, the devil puts that guilt on you. And the devil's done that a lot, but I've always said the devil never made me do anything. I've done it myself. And it's true. He doesn't make you, he just presents it. If you're addicted to drugs, he doesn't send you into a bar. He sends you to a place that has your choice of drugs. But yes, and I grew up taking care of those kids, and and the hard part of it is not a lot of money. I would take cardboard and I would wrap duct tape around it, and I would stick that into my boots because my boots end up getting holes in it, and the kids always needed shoes or clothes or something, and there wasn't a lot of money, so I had to do what I had to do. I don't regret it, but I did tell my youngest daughter, I said, I always felt like I was just a checkbook, and I had a guy that their mom was seeing at the time, and he come to work and told me, he said, dude, you're nothing but a checkbook. And that thought never left my head. You go through there going, and I said, well, I don't really give a crap what she does. I'm only here because of the kids. And you live, you get numb. And at this point, I'm hitting like 19 years old, raising kids. It's the more the stuff happened, the less I felt about myself. Like I didn't exist, I don't matter. And it was always do. But if you hear her version, she worked more than me. The woman hardly ever worked the whole time we were together, 20 some years. I think it was almost 24 years, to be honest with you. And it was just what it was. She'd take money from the business. It was bad. It's like the business started failing. Devil robs you from a lot of things. And these days I'm at peace with it because I ask every day for the Lord to mold and sculpt me, to remove anything from my life. So I have to expect these things because Lucifer will always get glorified no matter what happens. So you really have to watch where you're at, what you're doing. Pay attention to your household. If you're married, hopefully you got a godly spouse. I remember the house that Darlene moved into with me. I'd literally hear the voices. Make her leave. Make her leave. And they'd start getting mad with me. And they would claw you, scratch you, smash pop cans, flip our beds, throw stuff across the rooms. They threw rocks at her when she was cooking one night. I think she was making popcorn or something. Slammed doors. That was all normal to me. She went walking because we lived in this kind of like cul-de-sac type area. She went walking one night, one morning, and I think got so mad at me and literally just picked me up and slung me out of the bed and just threw me across the room. And I didn't care. I didn't care because I started becoming evil again anyways. It's like every time I was in that house, I'd have visions of doing, like, I had a vision of my daughter running her mouth and I just, like, went off on her. But I knew God always gave me the abilities to see things before stuff would happen. He would let me play out stuff before it happened. And I've always been thankful for that, because it kept me out of a lot of trouble. It kept me out of doing stuff that I knew that if I did this, I could end up in jail. But so childhood wasn't so great. Growing up, it was always fix it, fix it, fix it. You know, I didn't have time to be a brother. I had time to just fix it. And didn't really feel like a son. Going down there and help, when my dad would freak out, I was taking an old antenna thing off his roof, and I turned around and my dad was up there, and he just had coal black eyes just piercing at me, and I was like trying to get him back, and I kept yelling, "Dad, Dad." And sometimes I'd tell him to wake up, and sometimes he would, like that would work. Didn't work this particular night, and he just grabbed a hold of me, grabbed me like with 3 fingers right up underneath my chin, and just lifted me up off the roof, and just lifted me straight up with one hand and just tossed me right off the roof. My dad's put me through walls, grabbed a hold of me, tossed me from his living room into his kitchen. They had 2 steps that would step down into his kitchen, tossed me from the middle of the living room, and I slid across. And I still got these welts, like they probably needed stitches, and that's probably why they're the way they are back there. But every time I feel them, it just reminds me of what he did that night. That bottom drawer handle where you would store stuff in the bottom of these stoves, like pots and pans or whatever. I come down on it. I hit it. The screw just tore me up, and he just jumped on me. His knees came into my stomach area, and oh my gosh, this heater just blows right on your feet. It's like my feet are on fire. But and he just put his arm like right across here and just like held his hand up underneath my chin. It was hard for me to breathe because he had his knees like right into under my rib cage area, and I was in and out of consciousness, and he was just punching me everywhere. Broke my nose. My eyes were swelled, and he cracked two of my ribs on the left side, and broke these 3 ribs up in this area of here, and fractured my hand, dislocated 3 of my fingers. And if that wasn't enough, then I got up and went into where my room was, and he came at me again and grabbed a hold of me and tossed me through the wall, and I ended up cutting my knees open and stuff. And I mean, I was bleeding like a stuck pig everywhere, and it was horrible. I mean, it was probably the most. And all I kept saying is, God, why don't you just let him kill me? Just let me die. If hell is where I'm going, then I'd rather go to hell than have to go through this. But every time my stepmom would call, I'd go down there, and I had dig trenches around his house. It just become the normal of life. I mean, what some people, and when I tell people these stories, I mean, I went into a lot more on the hell videos and stuff, but when I tell people these stories, I tell you to really look at your life, and you'll find more things to be appreciated of, and what things that you take for granted. Like I don't like food to be wasted today. I don't like wastefulness of anything. I still drive by. It's like I see stuff in trash, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh well, I could take this home and use it, or I'm going to take it home and try to fix it. And I end up sometimes with so much stuff. It's like, dang it. But I fix more lawnmowers, more string trimmers and stuff, and I don't know. It just gives me something to do. I don't do it anymore. I don't really pick up. I mean, once in a while I'll see something on the side of the road and I'll go back and pick it up. Like I picked up a wheelbarrow. Cart one day. I turned around and picked up a cart. But so hopefully that answers some of it. My mom wasn't the best of the best, but she was still my mother. I still respected her, and I tried to do the best by her, even though all that I went through, and I just tried to be the best son I could be, and I try to be the best husband I can be, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I fall short there. There's a lot of reasons, though. I mean, it's just sometimes I kind of think I probably should just like been by myself somewhere. Like I think people's lives would have been a lot different. And I really do feel bad that Darla can't see her granddaughter. It's weird because out of the kids, there's so many grandchildren, and I don't know. I do know that the Lord told me in coming up in 2024 there's going to be a great restoring of things that the devil has taken. So I'm kind of hoping that she's going to get to see Chloe again and be able to spend time with her. That's what I'm praying for anyways. Not necessarily that I get to see her, because at this point it'll never be the same because of what they have done and what they have falsely accused me of. And it's crazy. I mean, people don't even realize what they do to you. But the thing of it is we have to continue to move. We got to continue to surrender all things to Jesus and keep pushing forward. So Heather hopefully gives you a little bit of my mother and them, and my father. I took care of him. I switched jobs when he got put in the nursing homes. My one sister, who's down in Florida, she kind of dumped it in my lap, and he wasn't getting treated very well, and so I did the best by him that I could. But it was hard. I can honestly say. I'll share one more thing with it. And he had another stroke, and he wasn't able to talk. So we would communicate by eye blinks and stuff. And I remember one day, and he was in his bed, and I just went in there and just lit into him. And I never seen my dad cry ever, but I watched tears come out of his face that day. And I walked out of the room, and I was just felt so peaceful. then because I was working there, I was the maintenance supervisor there, and I remember thinking in my head, going, I made my dad cry, and no matter what he's done, he doesn't deserve that. I went back, apologized to him. He grabbed a hold of my hand and mustered out, "I love you." And I told him I'd come back and see him before I left that night. And I don't know what. I think it was something with my mom. I was supposed to go. She was also in the hospital, and I was supposed to go see her. My sister moved her all the way out to where she was working at. And it was like an hour and some drive. So I'm like, dang it, it's like, And when I got home, I was just so tired. I was like, I took a bath, and we was going to eat and just drive out there. And I ended up getting a phone call from the DON, which I worked with her at another place. And she was just blowing up my phone. And I'm like, gosh. And she goes, "What are you doing? Why aren't you answering your phone?" And I said, "Because I was in the shower." I said, "What's going on?" She said, "Your dad passed away." And, all I kept thinking about was, I'm glad I had that strong feeling to go back in there and tell him I was sorry. Because I would have lived with that too. So, just look at your lives. When you grow up a hard life, and I don't know, I had a lot of dreams. I've had a lot of things that I thought I would be able to do, and for whatever reason, God doesn't want it. And so I got truck driving. I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that I have a job that pays decent. And I'm thankful for I'm able to come on here and do these videos, and it's helping people, it's touching people, and the wonderful inspiration and comments, and you guys would be surprised how many times that I was going to quit this, and every time I go to quit, somebody sends me something, and it just makes me keep pushing forward even more. That's why I call it a roller coaster. So, Heather, I knew I was all over the place in this, but sometimes that's the only way I can get through it. And I will never apologize for anything, because it's just how I am. But hopefully it kind of gives you a rundown where it is. When I do the revisit the hell thing, if you watch that video, you'll understand a lot more. So, don't forget, coming up, live event next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, whatever. It's tomorrow, Saturday. So, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So, in 5 days, do the countdown to 5 days. Because the amazing part is, I'll go home Tuesday night. I'll have Wednesday, Thursday off. I'll come back out Friday, Saturday. I'll go home Sunday, sometime Sunday. I'll be home Monday, go back out Tuesday, come back home Tuesday, and then I'll have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off, and then I'll go back out Saturday. So I'm excited about that. Plus, I plan on doing a few videos while I'm off, so I don't know. There's a lot that I really want to say that I just keep it. But I've given everything to Jesus, so maybe one day I'll share it all, and hopefully it'll help somebody. But God bless you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. As always, you can share these videos. Take them to your church. If you guys ever have testimony day or something at your church and it's not too far away, let me know. I'll come and speak at your church for you. I just kind of feel like that's kind of what God has called me to do. So, may good health come over you guys. If for some reason you don't get to make the live event, we were, basically gonna kind of do a, Merry Christmas to everybody anyway. So, but if not, Merry Christmas. Celebrate the birth of Christ. If you have family and you get together with family, enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Have plenty of food, plenty of gifts, and just be loved. God bless you. Till the next one.